Today we'd like to highlight one of our outreach efforts, and that is in forestry and natural resources.
University of Idaho Extension is helping Idahoans care for private and public lands through education to landowners, natural resource managers, and forest industries. From forest insects and diseases to wildland fire, stream protection, rangeland conservation, and logger education, UI Extension is guaranteeing the sustainability of our land for the future.
It makes me want to get out and hike. Okay, so I'm Maureen Toomey, and I am with the 4-H program statewide. While I cover a number of programs and partnerships with other faculty and staff at the university across the state, I am mainly focused on health and wellness. So those categories for me are nutrition education, teaching kids about my plate and how to eat to the best that you can. I also work with teens called health advocates. I also focus on physical activity. We have a program called 5 for 5. In 5 minutes, you can do 5 activities for better health. And I also support the team that's doing 4-H yoga. In the social and emotional well-being, my focus has been in the visual arts as a way to express yourself, stay calm, and be creative. So the learning today will be on creating a sculpture using some really basic techniques of coil, slab, and pinch pot. This activity is designed for young people, for kids, and it's great for all ages. So grab an adult and do it with them. It is also, I might say, fun, and it is very creative. So what you're going to work with is some non-hardening clay, some coasters or cardboard, some plastic knives or fork, some type of rolling pin, and a cutting mat. So we're going to really focus on looking at form, and forms are 3-dimensional shapes expressing the length, the width, and the depth of a sphere. Could be a sphere, a cube, a pyramid, a cone, a cylinder. So you can see on your screen some flat squares, but if you take those squares and make them into a box, then they're an actual form. They're no longer a shape. We're also going to look at the element of texture, which is the surface quality that can be seen with the eyes or can be felt. So it's very tactile. But texture, sometimes in paintings, you can see it, but you can't actually touch it. Okay, so texture, it can be smooth, it could be rough, it could be soft, hard, it could even be slimy or gooey. So we're going to take texture and add that to our sculptures today. And we're going to take the forms that we create, and we're going to make sure they have a sense of balance. Take a look at that rose there. It's got balance. It's not falling over. It's not necessarily perfect all the way around, but it's not falling over. So think of balance as how you're going to arrange all your different forms so they look like they won't fall over. We call that structural integrity. We're also going to look at proportion. So you want to make sure all of your pieces in your sculpture fit together so it looks like a unified whole. So take a look at that. I think it's a dragon with its tongue sticking out down on the bottom. So those proportions are pretty good. It looks like it's tilting, but that was just the way the photo was taken. And I love the green person here with the pink hat. That person is flat, but they are balancing on the edge of the table. So let's get started. So I'm here, I'm just going to show you my hand so you can follow quickly along. You need some type of platform for your sculpture. I have 3" by 3" shape. This is shape because it's flat. Just little pieces of wood. You could use foam core or you could use cardboard. I have some popsicle sticks. Here I have a little bit thicker because I taped 2 together to give me a little extra height. These are single popsicle sticks. I'll show you how to use those in a moment. I've got a knife to cut. It's just a simple plastic knife, and along with a fork to maybe create some texture. Of course, you will need non-hardening clay. This is an inexpensive clay. I love it because you can reuse it and reuse it. I also have a wooden dowel that I can use as a rolling pin. You can coat this with a little mineral oil so the clay is less likely to stick. A water bottle that is an equal circumference all the way around will work great. You just need something to roll the clay with. I have a collection of clay here. I've got some clay that I've already pre-cut into small cubes, and I just keep it in a bag. I always have my Kleenex ready to go. And today I've even got some wet wipes to make sure I really get cleaned up. All right, let's start with the coil. So if you want to grab a chunk of clay, I'm just going to grab a chunk of blue clay. It's about the size of my thumb. I'm going to start kneading it. And kneading is a K word, K-N-E-A-D-I-N-G. It's not a knead, it's just kneading. All right, so let's get that nice and soft at room temperature. Work it with your hands. Stretch it out to the shape of kind of like a little hot dog. And you're just going to take your fingers. Notice I'm doing 2 right now in the center. There's 3 fingers. Now I'm coming back out here. And as I roll my clay here, I'm stretching it. I'm trying to keep it pretty equal all the way around. That would be the circumference is around, the diameter is if you cut it in the middle. You could measure the diameter. Okay, so let's get it rolled out. Now I'm going to want kind of a long one. I got enough clay here to do that. And notice I'm spreading my fingers as I go. Okay. Okay. So that's looking pretty uniform. All right, let's set that aside. I'll put it up here at the top. Okay, let's go with our slab. Okay, I've got some yellow clay here. It's a little bit smaller piece. I could add, I can go in and I can add maybe 2 small yellow pieces together. But again, with this clay, it's got to be kind of warmed up to be pliable. So I just have a nice round blob. Okay, I'm gonna put it down on my mat. These are great little plastic mats that are used for cooking. They work great. You don't need a mat. You can work right on the tabletop. I've got my double popsicle sticks here. And just so that I can get a nice flat slab, I'm going to push, but that's really hard because all you see is your fingerprints. But I keep pushing. All right, so I'm going to bring in my rolling pin, which is a wooden dowel. Lay out my slats. You could use rulers if you wanted. And I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to push forward. Start in the middle and pull back. Back to the middle. Move forward, start in the middle, and pull back. And this is exactly how you roll out pie crust or roll out bread dough when you're baking. Start in the middle and roll out pizza dough, whole wheat, of course. Okay, or you could use some type of rice flour if you wanted to make pizza dough too. So start in the middle and pull back. Here we go. So the thing I like about art is that it's always integrated with other parts of your life. So you can integrate art into your cooking activities. You can integrate art into science. Of course, art always comes first over science. Let's be sure about that. You can integrate it into, as I do, my social emotional well-being. So now I got a nice slab going here. But before I cut a shape, I'm gently pulling it up and flipping it over. I'm going to do one last roll. Start in the middle, roll out, start in the middle, roll out. And now if I want, I can cut. If I wanted to, I could go get a seam gauge from sewing, the sewing project, and I could actually do an exact measure, get a nice cut, pull it up. I've got a nice slab. It's a rectangle shape. I'm going to take my wood coaster. This is one thing you can do with your slabs. And I'm going to push it down onto my wood coaster. Now, I can roll out more yellow to cover the rest of my coaster. Here's my sample. Oops, I lost. There we go. Here, I've just smushed clay down, and so it's multicolored. Here, I could lay out another strip of maybe bright red. I could do a white. I could do any color I wanted. I want, and that would help create some texture. So that's what we're going to do with the slab right now. Moving on, keeping an eye on our time, I'm going to get a big chunk of white. Now, I've warmed it up already, so go ahead and start warming yours up. This is a ball up technique. So, oh, I want to clean my tray. Keep my white clay white. Okay, here we go. But I'm going to roll it with my fingers, or you can roll it with the palm of your hand. Whatever works for you. Okay. So general round ball. And then I'm going to take my fingers, push it into the center. And I'm going to work that clay equally. I'm really sensing here. Really sensing the thickness of the walls, because you want to keep your walls the same thickness. And I just am working that clay, and the walls are getting thinner, and I'm feeling the bottom. That's really important. Okay. I think I can stretch it out. You have to be careful on these sides, otherwise the top gets a little wobbly, and we don't want that. If your top gets too wobbly, then you don't have a good proportion to your sculpture, and you don't have that structural integrity that I mentioned earlier. Sculptures are sculptures, and sculptures should be balanced, and that means sculptures should be able to exist on their own. Sometimes they have internal support. That's called an armature, but that's not what we're working with today. So you notice I'm pushing here. I'm getting a little bit of a flat bottom, which I want. And then just to make sure my top is kind of level, because I want that good level proportion going on, I'm pushing it a little bit using the mat to create a flat surface.
Maureen, I think you did answer this, but just want to make sure. So we have a question in chat about why do you want to keep the thickness of the walls the same?
You want the thickness of the walls the same, so that you don't have a weakness in one side because it's too thin, and then it, the more you handle it, it can crack. And if you add anything to the center, then it can crack. This clay is very pliable, malleable. So it's a little bit easier to do repairs. If you're working with a hardening type clay, or a clay that you fire and your walls are not even thicknesses, that clay, once it is fired in a kiln, it most likely will crack, and your final beautiful sculpture you worked on will be damaged. All right, I'm taking a fork here, and now I've got a finger under supporting the wall, and I'm just going to score it, and I'm going to rotate it around my finger just to create a little texture. just an added interest. Sometimes that's all texture is an added interest, but it will matter in the end. Okay, so here's my bowl. Well, let's go back to our coil, whatever color you used. And I'm going to cut some different lengths of coil. I'm going to cut a longer one here. Because I really liked in my practice run, I liked how my cylinders, these were coils, my cylinders, I just like the appearance of that. It's kind of like being out at the ocean and seeing some, coral or starfish or sea anemones on the rocks. So I'm taking my different lengths. I've got 2 in, and I really like the contrast of the blue and the white. I'm going to cut a little one and maybe a longer one. We'll see. Now, what's great about this clay is you can recreate, and recreate. So if you don't like how it is set up the first time, you can move it around. And I'm going to add a 5th one just because that combination, rather than just 4, 5 may just work great. All right, so what I've done is I've put 5 in here. And because I was just thinking about that, the seaweed in the ocean and the way it ripples in the tide, I curved this top tall one. Now, I could place that there. I'm not quite ready to place that. I think what I want to do is I've got some new green clay, very bright, and I found some old green clay that's got a lot of blue in it. I'm going to mix those 2 together. So work it. You can take another piece of clay. You can take any color you want. Go ahead and work it, get it nice and soft. Okay, so now I have, it's kind of like a marble. I like marbles. I like the color of glass. Okay, I'm just going to pinch a little bit off. Again, we're going to use this technique that we started with the pinch pot. Let's see, it's a little difficult, but I want to use 2 fingers to get the ball going. And then I want to set it in my palm. And maybe just take 2 fingers and roll it in my palm. Let's see what I got going here. Oh yeah, well, it's not quite a ball, but I'll keep working at this. Maybe 1 finger. Maybe down on here. So keep trying different techniques as you go. Okay. Well, let's see. I've set it in my pot here, but it, honestly, it really has added nothing, no visual interest to my pot. So let's set that aside and think about that. I think, well, as I work here, I'm going to have to add more to my foundation piece. So I'm wondering if I got a bunch of yellow on my foundation. And again, this is why this kind of clay is so much fun, because you can just keep going. All right, so now I got to get this clay all over my foundation. What's the quickest way to do that? Let's give it a go. I'm going to roll back, roll forwards. Move it, roll back, roll forwards. I'm spreading it out. So the idea is that you're going to eventually have yellow all over your platform. I could add my bowl. And then wouldn't that be amusing just to have 1 marble out front? I don't know. Is that visually interesting? Could be. I would need to finish the rest here. But I think I've got something going here. It's like that 1 pebble on the beach rolling into the bowl of tide of seaweed that's waving. So you create your story for your sculpture. That's what artists do. This is a sculpture I've had on my desk for a couple of weeks that I really like. It's visually interesting. It has lots of color. I used all the techniques: pinch, coil, and slab. 5 practice techniques. It's still visually interesting, and this clay is non-hardening, so it will continue to be pliable, and you can create in the future with it.
Maureen, while you are making that transition, you scored the little white cup or bowl that you did in that. Can you talk a little bit more about scoring? Did you go all the way through? Was it just you talked a lot about texture in that. Was it just to give it different texture? Was there any other reason why you were scoring the bowl?
It was just to practice the technique. You can also use a wooden skewer. You could use the tip of a ballpoint pen or a pencil. I've seen that. Anything just to create some visual interest in your sculpture. So it really matters, what you want to communicate, and that's why you want to add some texture. And when you put the texture with the form, you can create that sense of proportion and balance. So it's taking those elements of art, putting them together, applying them to use the principles of design. Okay. So we have a survey, and if you, I understand, take the survey, you can use the QR code, or Joey can drop the bit.ly link in the chat, and you have an opportunity to be entered into a drawing for University of Idaho swag. So that's pretty cool. Since we have just a moment left, I would like to share this opportunity. I'm going to switch my camera up here now. Hello. 4-H youth development is across the state, and we're here to serve all youth 5 to 18 years of age. We have a great opportunity called 4-H Outside the Box Learning Labs. These labs come in boxes. We have a Galactic Quest, a Junior Master Gardener, and of course, we have a visual arts. The visual arts contains 7 lessons. All of the supplies are in the box. It does require that you have a caring adult to guide you in the lessons. It does require that the caring adult contact us, which was on one of the handouts, to acquire these learning labs. You work your way through the 7 lessons. We definitely need a survey back from the adult helper and from the youth. If your parents are willing for you to finish the survey, it's just pretty short, telling us about your 4-H experience in using the learning labs. So if you're interested in the learning labs, adults, please reach out to you and I together, and we'll direct you to the correct person to get those learning labs out to you. It's best to let us know now, even if you want them in May, as we do need to get them put together. The way the program works is you get 1 learning lab per youth in your program. So if there's 5 in your group, you just request 5. If there's 20, request 20. So we're excited to be able to share 4-H outside the box visual arts learning labs with all of you today. And this activity today came from the learning lab.
And we hope that you will join us next week as Joey is teaching us about bread in a bag. Well, with that, thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you in 1 week, same place, same time, 4 to 4:30. Have a great Tuesday.